up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Kevin Jackwitz. This is the Kaged Review, and I'm going to review Ant-Man and the Wasp. I saw it probably about a week late. Sorry about that. Everybody should know by now. Had some time in the hospital. So I got to miss a few things, and this being one of them that I really wanted to get to. So I finally got a chance to see it today. It's Sunday. I think it's the 8th. And I gotta say, man, I really liked it. I think I've seen a few reviews already for it since watching the movie, and I think one thing that everybody is saying is that unanimously it's not big enough in scale. And I'm like, how many movies does Marvel have to make that are completely world-ending scenarios? It's not realistic. Well, I mean, none of it's realistic, but I mean, you can't have everything like doom and gloom and holy shit, the world's gonna end. It just doesn't make sense. And so, every once in a while, they need to have something that is smaller scale, perfect for Ant-Man, of course. And I think this really hit home with a lot of things. So, this is my non-spoiler review, so you don't have to worry about me giving too much away in this one, or really anything. I'm going to talk about what I thought about the acting and certain characters, and I'll deal with the big plot points in my spoiler review. So, right off the bat, you see Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, and you have Abby Forrest as Cassie Lang, his daughter. And it's a really cute scene that kind of builds up a couple of scenarios. One, it's establishing the relationship between Scott and his daughter Cassie, which I really liked, and it shows that Cassie is his world, and that like a lot of the things he's doing, he's trying to do for Cassie, and not to let her down. And it also helps you understand right away that he's on house arrest. That, you know, the government, we kind of knew from the last movie, it said that him and Cliff both made deals with the government, and he's on house arrest. So he can't go anywhere. So it establishes a few things. And honestly, in one of the reviews, I forget, Grace Randolph, I think is her name, she had actually complained about how she thought that this was too long of a segment here. And I didn't think so. I think that it was exactly what it needed to be. It was just as long as it needed to be to establish, you know, that, you know, you had this really big connection between the two characters and setting up the scenario for Scott Lang himself. So I really liked it. And I gotta say, I really like Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, Scott Lang. He's got this very unique sense of humor that he brings to the table. And I remember when I first seen him, I think it was Role Models, and he had just some of the greatest lines in that movie, and I'm like, why is this guy not bigger than he is? And of course, now he is. I just really like Rudd. I think he's absolutely fantastic as a comedic actor. He's got a great sense of timing. He got this genuine humor to him that I think a lot of people gravitate towards. So I was super excited about that. If you've seen the first Ant-Man or Civil War, it's basically the same guy, the same character, you know, that you've probably come to know and love. Because he is a very likable character. He's a little awkward, he's very funny, and it just hits home. Now here's the movie where you kind of really get introduced to Hope Van Dyne as the Wasp. We met her obviously in the first Ant-Man, and we saw that she was a very good fighter, she was very trained, very good tactician. But here you finally get to see the Wasp. And if most of you don't know, the Wasp, Hope Van Dyne, was actually a leader of the Avengers at one point. She actually led the Avengers. So that, I think, is a very important keynote here, because she is going to be well, I say Infinity War 2, it's probably going to be called Endgame or something like that. But the next Avengers movie, she's in. So that's pretty exciting for me, honestly. I was hoping to see her in the first one, didn't get that far. That's alright, I'm holding out for the next one. As far as the character, Hope Van Dyne, she is very serious in this. She's that no-nonsense, take charge type of character that has not, honestly, a lot of sense of humor. I don't know, I think being that she is such a big character in the actual Marvel comic universe, I think I would have tried to go for a little bit more likability. But honestly, truth be told, you know, she's trying to get her mom out of the quantum zone. And so that kind of, you know, it makes sense. It does. Hank Pym, Michael Douglas. I really like Michael Douglas in damn near anything he does. It's fucking Michael Douglas. I mean, the guy is amazing. I really like that they make Hank Pym in the movie, Hank Pym in the comic books. Hank Pym in the comic books is not a very likable character. He's, you know, got this amazing intellect. He's an amazing inventor, just like, you know, Iron Man is. But he's kind of a prick. And it really kind of shows in this movie that, you know, he is a jerk, and him being a jerk has cost him a lot in his life. And he's getting a lot of backlash for the things he's done being a jerk to people. So I really like that they're staying true to not only the character, but Michael Douglas does just a great job portraying him. He really does. I'm honestly really glad to see Michael Douglas back on the big screen. And now that he's brought into the Marvel movies, phenomenal. Couldn't be any happier, to be very honest. Michelle Pfeiffer. She plays Janet Van Dien, Michael's, you know, ex-wife, Evangeline Lilly's character's mother. And unfortunately, you don't really get to see a whole lot of Michelle Pfeiffer, which I think is really a deficit to the movie, because let's face it, Michelle Pfeiffer has been amazing in virtually everything she's been in. Like, she's just so good. And I was really surprised at how little screen time she actually had. And for what it was, I mean, it was it was there. I don't know that it was very climactic at all. They tried to set an emotional trigger for one moment that I'm not really going to be able to talk about until the spoiler review. But, like, they set up this thing, it's supposed to be this really big emotional moment, and it just, for me, it didn't sell. It just did not sell. Yeah, I'll have to get into that more when we get into spoiler talk. Abby Forreston as Cassie Lang, I thought was very likable, very adorable. Somebody that had some very quick quips, some very good punchlines in this movie. I thought she was funny. Of course, being Cassie Lang, Scott Lang's daughter, she should have a sense of humor, and she really does. And like I said, I think I really enjoyed the character building between Scott and Cassie more than just about anything in this movie. I thought they did a damn good job with it. Lawrence Fishburne, Dr. Bill Foster. This is a guy who used to work with Hank Pym. Of course, right away in the very first conversation, you know that there's tension between Foster and Hank Pym, and they're kind of hoping that Bill can help them with this mission that they're on, which again, have to wait for spoiler talk because I don't want to give too much away. So begrudgingly, he agrees to help. Lawrence Fishburne, you know, he's cool. He's got this swag that just pours over in every role he does. But I've said before how certain roles is the actor playing a character. You know, they get in role, they get in the mindset of a different person, how they would react, how they would think, how they would talk, how they would whatever. And this, to me, is Lawrence Fishburne playing Lawrence Fishburne as Bill Foster. You know, it's just him being him, being, you know, the cool swaggy guy that he is. And it works, but I wouldn't say it's an acting role. I would say it's, you know, an audition to be yourself, really. I mean, that's what it comes down to. But it was good for that. I will say it was good. After that, you got Hannah John Kamen, and this is the woman who plays Ava, or Ghost. And I really liked her. Like, I don't know that I've seen her in anything before. If I have, I haven't paid attention to it. This time I paid attention to it, and she's really good. Like, she sells some things very, very well. If you don't know who Ghost is, this is one of the more important villains in the Marvel Universe. And I will say you don't really get that feel in this movie. there's a lot of things that I have to talk about in spoilers that just talk about the character development with Ghost and the direction they went with Ghost. Now, being that she is such a main villain in the Marvel Universe, I was really surprised at some of the things they did with her. As far as the acting, though, I think Hannah did very, very well. There were some scenes where, you know, you got some like really anguished moments, and I think she sold it. You know, as good as could be sold. As good as could be sold. So there's that. The next thing is probably I'll go with Michael Pena as Lewis. This is the friend from part 1. You know, Scott Lang meets Lewis after he got out of jail. Lewis is this guy that's helping him out, and you know, eventually gets him to do a theft job, which is how they all meet up with Hank Pym. And Michael Pena is kind of used as comic relief a lot in this movie. I mean, he is a comedian. And he does very, very well. I mean, the one thing I will say about this movie compared to other Marvel movies is there were some jokes that did not necessarily land for me. And there's so many movies where every joke lands for me. So I was a little surprised at that. But still overall very funny, very entertaining. But Michael Pena, he had a couple of moments there that I thought were very corny, but overall he was still pretty funny. He really landed a lot of his punchlines very well. On the flip side of that, you have a new character played by Randall Park, and this is Jimmy Woo, who is, you know, another big important character in the Marvel Universe, and he's kind of relegated to another comic relief. But I gotta say that Randall Park, his comedic timing was just spot on the whole movie. Like, it was really funny. There were some moments that he really played very, very well. And I gotta give it to him. There were a couple of things that could have went very wrong, honestly, and just been completely awkward. And I think because it was Randall Park and knowing how to have comedic timing like he does, it just went over very, very well. I mean, overall, you know already that the basic premise is they're trying to get Janet Van Dyne out of the quantum realm. Because we all know from the first movie that, you know, she went in to save this, well, whatever she was trying to save from a rocket, she collapsed down and, you know, went through the cracks of this rocket, destroyed the rocket, and then just kept shrinking into the quantum zone. And so we know that, you know, already there's this mission, there's this connection because you've seen in the trailers. But there's a side note there that now Ghost has arrived, and I don't want to get into too much because it gives like really too much away of what's happening, but Ghost gets involved with that original plot line there, and there's a little twist there. So it gets a little complicated, but overall, very cool, very entertaining. Like, the special effects in this movie are really what sold it for me. The comedy and the special effects. Now, it's really hard when you go from a movie like Black Panther and then go to Infinity War back down to something like Ant-Man, because it is a smaller scale. And, you know, people were complaining about like how there wasn't enough of an action sequence, a really big standout. And I'm like, honestly, if Black Panther and Avenger Infinity War hadn't happened this year, this movie would have been a lot more highly praised, I think. Because honestly, there were a lot of very cool sequences here. Now, you did get to see a lot of it in the trailers, but there was some really cool stuff they did with this, and I thought it was very well done. So I think it's honestly just a point where people are getting desensitized, and if it's not the absolute biggest spectacle that Marvel can produce, then it's just not good enough, and I think that's silly. Because honestly, like I said, very good comedy, very, very good special effects. Like, there were some moments here that just really took my breath away. Like, honestly, like, the scene in the trailer, which I'm sure you've all seen by now if you're watching this, where the Wasp jumps into this SUV and she's shrinking and getting larger and, you know, making guys hit each other and taking care of everybody in this SUV, it looked really good, and it was a very cool sequence. And so I think that people, you know, they just expect too much nowadays. Like, you can't have just a basic small scale, you know, this is a personal matter that we have to deal with kind of movie from Marvel. I honestly think they did a very, very, very damn good job with this. I really liked it. I had a thoroughly good time. My girlfriend went with me. She enjoyed it, I'm sure, just as much as I did. We were talking about it afterwards. There was a lot to love about this movie. There really was. Paul Rudd being at the helm of this, I think, really makes it great. Like I said, he's just got this offbeat, funny personality that I think is really engaging. And it really just, you know, makes it so much more likable. So overall, man, I mean, honestly, I have to give this a pretty high score. There were a couple of small things that I'll talk about in spoilers that really didn't sit right with me. But overall, it did not ruin the experience of the movie. And so honestly, I'm going to give it a pretty high rating, I think. I think it deserves at least a 7 out of 10. At least a 7 out of 10. You know, the whole idea of a summer blockbuster movie is to go in there, see something amazing, see something you've never seen before, hopefully have a lot of laughs. This movie did all of that in spades. And I think pretty much everybody in the movie landed what they were there for. I think the only exceptions to that were Michelle Pfeiffer, only because it was such a short amount of screen time. I would have really liked to have seen her have more. And, you know, Michael Pena, like I said, some of his jokes didn't exactly land. Although I will say, even in saying that some of his jokes didn't land, Michael Pena had one of the funniest sequences in this movie. Absolutely hilarious. So it's not like I'm downing on him. Don't say like, oh my God, he's bashing. No, he was really funny. There were just certain things that did not land for me. And like I said, going into spoilers, I will talk about that sequence in particular because I just could not stop laughing. And I think a lot of people were like that. So ladies and gentlemen, that's my take on Ant-Man and the Wasp. 7 out of 10. Very good movie. Very funny. Visually very entertaining. And structurally sound. Very good story to it. So, that is my review. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Try to leave spoilers out of it. I'm going to do the spoiler review next, so leave the spoilers for that one. If you enjoyed the review, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackowitz, Kaged Nation, out.